All right, well, welcome back to Beyond the Bar, where we explore the people, the principles, and the personal stories that drive Feller and Wendt forward. I'm your host, Thaddeus Went, and today we're going to peel back the professional titles to reveal the real lives that shape three of our leaders. We know them in our firm as our law firm executives. We've got a couple GMs here with us today and our director of operations for pre-suit production. Personally, what we've got for you is a Navy veteran, a probation officer, a pastor in training, former executive coach, and actually current executive coach, a Canadian, couple former football players here. I think all three of you were football players at one point, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep.
And that's American football for y'all out there, not soccer. So if you can't tell by looking at it. So this one's going to be real, honest, and probably a little bit surprising as we go along. So let's dive in here. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you.
Excellent.
Let's go back a little bit and walk us through a day in your life when you were in the Navy. Tell us a bit about that world, and then how's that different from your world today as you sit here?
Well, that was, how long ago was that? That was a long time ago, 20 some years ago. So I'll try to remember what it was like. I could tell you when I left the last couple of years, I was a search and rescue evaluator on the West Coast. I would go out and evaluate all the ships on the West Coast and their capability to perform search and rescue operations. So wake up, exercise. I also ran a kind of a training program to get people ready for the search and rescue schoolhouse. So I would have training sessions once or twice a day where I'd have people come in, teach them how to swim. We do endurance exercises, a lot of underwater swimming to get them used to being underwater, because believe it or not, in search and rescue operations, especially when we're trying to save people, we go underwater quite a lot. So we pull them underwater, especially if they're grabbing onto us, we take them underwater. So you have to be able to, handle the water in your face, choking on the water, doing all those kind of things.
Why do you drag them underwater?
Part of it is to get them to release from you. So
Okay.
most people, when they're drowning, they'll grab onto anything and everything that's around them. So if you're swimming towards them and they're panicking, they're just going to grab onto you and puts your life in danger, puts their life in danger. So sometimes you have to go underwater to release them, back away until either they tire out or you take a different approach to be able to grab onto them and save them safely. So
Awesome.
So we do that, and then the afternoon, usually some other sessions, or go out to a ship and perform an evaluation on their capabilities.
Awesome. Good stuff. Adam, let's pivot to you real quick. Probation officer, tell us where, when, why.
Probation officer, I did that on an Indian reservation down in Arizona.
So you're hired by the tribe or hired by the state?
That was hired by the tribe after I worked
Okay.
for the state. So in the state, I worked, did Department of Corrections, Department of Juvenile Corrections, corrections officer, institutional case manager, and then parole officer. Okay. So the parole officer is what I did a majority of the time. And then when I left parole, I did get on with the reservation doing probation. I did that for a little bit. Worked adult probation as a surveillance officer in Maricopa County. So I've done a lot of different things in that kind of
Nice.
industry.
Tell the folks that are watching and listening, what's the difference between a parole officer and probation officer?
Yeah, it's easy. So probation is your alternative to incarceration. So people get arrested, they go to jail, and if they're lucky, they get put on probation instead of getting a jail term. Parole is a little bit different. Parole is what you get put on after you're getting ready to be released from prison. So these are your harder offenders who've been sentenced and done state time, and then they can commute some of that institution time into parole in the community.
So you're like that, some of the TV shows then. You're out there mixing it up with some of the hard boys.
Yes.
How that you got any like big stories that stick out in your mind?
Yeah, there's a couple stories.
Or don't
Several
forget your kids might watch this.
Well, no, there's several stories. I think, there's some redemptive stories, and then there's also some, heartbreaking stories. I think the first home evaluation that I did when I left the institution, I went out to this town in Eloy, Arizona, which is a super small town. And, the inmate I had in the Department of Corrections, and I was always kind of hard on him a little bit. He was a nicer kid, but, I get to his house and the door opens up and his mom opens the door and she's just got hickeys all over her neck. And I'm like, what is going on? So I go in the house and there's no walls in the house. It's just 4 walls. And then they're running clothing lines across the house with sheets that they're using to separate into bedrooms. And he's got 3 sisters and a mom. There's a dirt floor, not even a regular floor. United States, people living with dirt floors. And I just remember leaving that thinking, man, this kid never had a chance. Kitchen, there's dirty dishes piled up 2 feet high. And, you start looking, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And then on the flip side of that, when I was, a parole officer, and then I was working part-time for Maricopa County Probation Department, I had a kid that was locked up during the daytime. I had his dad in the evening. Mm-hmm. And Dad was like, just tell him to try to straighten up. Mm-hmm. But, it gets pretty sad.
So you just described that house. I've seen that before, not in the U.S., but I've seen it in Africa, and you just went to Africa. So, how that compare what you just described with what you saw out there in Africa?
Poor here in the United States is very rich in Africa.
Yeah.
And I had opportunity to live in Brazil and see some of the favelas over there, and I've seen bad conditions, but, I think the bad conditions I saw in Africa don't compare to anything I've seen anywhere else in the world.
I'd have to agree. I went to Kenya, and you went where again?
Namibia. Yeah, people shouldn't have to live like that, for sure.
Yeah, it's shocking. I'm about to go to India, too, and it's got poverty, too, but I've never seen the level of poverty I've seen when I was out there in Kenya. It's wild.
Yeah.
Sad. Colton. Colton got told yesterday, I don't know, would you have a whole 9 hours to prepare yourself for this here?
I think less, but I told I was talking about myself, which is my favorite subject.
But I found out he's so ready and just a natural that he even went to the movies last night, watched Formula One. But do they have cars that can race like that in Canada? You're Canadian, right?
Mostly the snow machines.
Snow machines. All right. So that was all new for you when you watched F1.
Oh yeah, I was like, wow, look at this.
Just kidding.
How are they going?
So Colton's our GM in Idaho, and we have some fun banter. At least it's fun for me. I hope it is for him. But tell us a little bit. I joked about being from Canada, but you really are. Tell us about that, and then what brought you to Idaho?
Yeah, so I grew up just outside of Calgary, Alberta, which is a little north of Montana there. I did all my education there. I was born there. My dad was an American citizen. He grew up in Detroit. My mom had grown up on a tiny little farm town in southern Alberta, and they met in the UP college there in northern Michigan, and they both worked in the oil field. So they lived in Texas for a long time, and then obviously Alberta, Canada, for those who don't know, has a big oil scene. We consider it kind of the Texas of Canada. So they'd moved up there in the 80s when Alberta was undergoing a boom, but the Texas scene had really slowed down. So I was born in Calgary, grew up there, went to high school there. Then I moved down to the U.S. After I got out of high school to play football. So
nice.
Came down and, haven't been back since. Haven't let me back.
Yeah.
What year were you born?
92.
Oh, you missed the Calgary Flames heyday by about 4 years.
It's true. I grew up there decent out there. I remember watching Jerome McGinley and Dion Phaneuf. That's my favorite guy. That guy would light people up.
Nice. That's awesome. You talked about, I didn't know that, but that's first I've heard about the oil fields and all that kind of stuff. Have you watched Landman?
Parts of it, yeah.
Yeah. How about your parents? Have they watched it?
They've watched a little bit of it. I don't know if my parents would appreciate some
Yeah,
of the,
I was gonna say.
the crass, crude humor in that.
Yeah, the relationship between
don't know if I
Billy
can-
Bob Thornton's character and his daughter.
Yeah.
There's a little.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could
Cringy.
recommend that to my
We're
dad.
too open.
Yeah, that's definitely not. They're not trying to model proper parenting techniques there, I think. But
No kid.
so your parents haven't seen it. They couldn't do. I mean, have you guys talked about like what you saw there and what it was like when they were living in Texas?
So they would they were office people, right?
Oh,
They're
okay.
both working as civil engineers there. So they lived in Houston. And Houston and Calgary had a lot of similarities there, and it was kind of like the heyday in Calgary when they got there. The city was building up. I remember saying it was just like they were putting up a new building every day, and just going nuts. My dad would go up north a fair bit to what we call the tar sands up north there, and you are really really far up there when you're traveling to see when they're actually extracting the oil. Like you can fly in small planes in there, you can drive, but it's pretty far north. A lot of people just don't realize how massive of a province Alberta really is.
My takeaway from that is you were almost Texan.
And pretty close, pretty close.
So football, we talked a little bit about that. All three of you fellas have played. Colton, starting with you, what position and what's your favorite play or your best play that you think you had during your career?
Oh, I was a linebacker, and I was really probably only good at hitting people. That was my favorite.
It's a good
playing
thing for
football.
linebackers.
Yeah, there's only like a few places in the world where you can really hit someone in a socially acceptable environment there.
Get encouraged to do it.
Exactly. I remember a play my sophomore year of college where they ran kind of like a fly sweep out there. And we'd watched a lot of film, obviously, so I remember seeing the slot back there. That's what we would call him, kind of his position. And I just knew it right away. I was like, oh, they're going to run it. So I was out there, met it, pitched it out to him, and I was right there behind the line, smacked this guy. Ball fell down. It was horizontal, so a live ball, fumble. Picked it up and was like, oh, I'm going to score this, running. But, man, I was just so slow. Stumbled with the ball, trundling towards the end zone, and their running back caught me by the heel. He didn't even bring me down. He kicked my foot back behind my other foot.
Yeah.
And he caught it and boom, went down.
Hey, at least it wasn't the turf monster that got you.
Hey, that would have been worse. At least I
Yeah.
ran the right direction.
Did you get video of it?
There's probably video footage out there somewhere.
Yeah, you
I
gotta
remember.
find it. See if you're really as slow as you remember.
I watched
Pretty
enough
quick.
footage of me to know how slow I am.
You
Yeah.
could see that. Huh? Adam, how about you? You played before they had the ability to video, right?
Yeah. They
Something
didn't
like
even have
that.
hard helmets.
We did.
Oh,
have,
did you guys run it?
We
You
had
ran
leather
together?
helmets.
we
They
had
had leather helmets.
We had to watch film, so
Oh,
we
man.
had, we had video.
All right.
No, I was a linebacker. It always ticked me off because I wanted to be the free safety. I was 5'9" and probably 165 pounds, and our free safety was like 6'3", 190. And I would be like, Coach, how does this make sense that I'm at middle linebacker and this guy's getting to roam sideline to sideline? So I was not happy about that. I was a fullback as well. So yeah,
Biggest.
I like to hit people.
What's your favorite play that you?
I don't know if you remember who Dana Stubblefield was, defensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers. So I played against that guy from like 7th grade on. His nickname was Bubba.
Nice.
And the guy was like, I don't know, he was a monster, 6'4", 200-some pounds in a 7th grade or 8th grade. And so, just watching him grow, and he was a running back, and just being able to hit that dude. You had to hit him low.
See, that's proof you're wired different. That your favorite plays are hitting somebody.
Well,
that's
it's
like
funny
100
because I have a
pounds heavier.
scar. I have a scar on my knee like this. I tackled him in a game, and his cleat caught my knee, and it ripped it open. And they're looking, and I had to go get stitches. And so, I get there to the urgent care, and they're like, "All right, lay back. We got to stitch you up." And I'm like, "Well, can you move the back of the chair up so I can watch. And they're like, you don't want to watch? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'd rather watch than lay up and look at the ceiling.
Yeah.
So they accommodated it, and that was pretty wild.
Huh.
So
Definitely wired different. Jared, position, favorite play?
Yeah, I played both sides. So I played tight end and outside linebacker. That actually was a hard-fought battle because I was bigger then than I am now, and they always wanted me to play tackle. I hated it because I wanted to catch the ball and I wanted to, be more aggressive in tackling people and have a little bit more freedom. So I was eventually able to convince them that I can play both ways and play tight end and outside linebacker. And I would say my favorite was tight end. We had this banana route that we would just go and I would just peel out and you could just imagine the shape of a banana. You just peel out in about 10 yards, catch the ball and just head down. So that was my favorite. Worked almost every time. So just enjoyed it. But I'll tell you, every injury I have now, from ankle, shoulder, elbow, it's all related to football. So
ditto.
as much as I loved it, my body does not love it right now.
Correct.
Colton, we'll check in with you about injuries in about 10, 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Colton's young enough. He's
Waiting for that CTE to kick in.
Yeah.
He's, I think that's kicking in already, actually. All right. Hey, we're going to get a little bit more serious here. I want to talk about kind of principles that guide you, focus more on your career and where you are right now. You can go wherever you guys want to go with this, but what belief or principle from your previous career or life has kind of guided you to get to where we are? And just to kind of put a little context to that, we just all got out of our quarterly meeting, 2-day event where we talk about a lot of these things, right? Marginal gains, hedgehog concepts, EOS traction, business methodologies and principles. But how about for you guys? I mean, you don't have to make it business oriented necessarily, but what principle is guiding you or guided you to get you here, sitting here at this amazing high level podcast right here today? Who wants to start? It's a light question.
Yeah.
Looking at me. All right. Respect. I think respect's a big one.
Okay.
Being respectful for others. Struggled with that from time to time,
As we all
making
do.
people earn my respect or vice versa. But I think you just got to be, you have to be good with people, right? You have to respect people. You have to listen to their opinions. Whether it's your partner or your supervisor or a client, you've got to have a willingness to listen. You can disagree and you can sharply disagree, but I think there is a respectful way to do that as well. And so, learning those, boundaries and barriers I think are important. I think consistency goes a long way. I know as a corrections officer, you had to be consistent, with your population you were working with. You couldn't show favoritism to one. Those guys are watching every step you're making. And I think that happens, in a law office as well, right? Your subordinate staff are, how's he treating me versus how he's treating other people. So I think, your day-to-day consistency and your respect for others goes a long way to, getting the office where the office needs to go.
Yeah. Good stuff. Next.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Sure.
think, what's kind of guided me, I guess ever since I was young, was I was always drawn to kind of a set of values, if you will. So Navy has a set of core values. I worked for the Air Force longer than I was in the Navy. Worked for the Air Force for over 20 years, and they have a set of core values that are really, really important. They're very simple. There's only 3 of them, but I think. Also looking at Feller and Wendt, what, kind of part of the question I think you had, kind of what drew us here, what brought us, to this point. And, I think having the core values within Feller and Wendt too, it just shows a level of consistency with, kind of respect what Adam was saying. There's a whole bunch of, relational and behavioral, attitudes wrapped up in the core values. But, I think that's what, I can transition from my past to Feller and Wendt, is that understanding and, I guess, acceptance of the core values and trying to live those out in my daily practice.
Nice. Okay.
For me, I've always been driven a lot by the concept of responsibility. The idea, hey, if you've been given certain gifts, you get a responsibility to use them too. But more so in like my day-to-day practice, you get a lot of opportunities. Like people give you chances, opportunities, whether that's working in a leadership position, whether that's working on certain cases, whether that's whatever your job is in the day-to-day. Like someone's asked you to do that. It's your job to get it done. And I think a lot of times for me, I'm driven by this idea that, hey, someone's looked at me and said, I'm relying on you to get this done, or I'm giving you this opportunity. And it's hard, I'm just not the kind of guy that wants to be given something and turn around and hand them back nothing. So
Yeah.
whether it's, your family, whether it's your boss too, even in a leadership position, really, you've got people that come and work for you and put in an effort. You've got a responsibility to them too, to take care of them, to lead them, to help them be successful. So the principle that's kind of always in the back of my mind when I really distill what I do down is I've got a responsibility. Particularly in our profession, we've got a responsibility to our clients. Like they come to us on lots of times the worst day of their life. They need you. You've got the skills. They're relying on you. We've got to be there for them. We've got that responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, that resonates a ton with me too. I mean, I get that. As a CEO, I think that's probably what drives me a ton is just knowing that I'm responsible for, I think I mentioned it in the quarterly meeting. We've got 64 employees now. That's 64 families that we're having a major impact on. And that's a lot of responsibility. Drives you, makes you want to be, even more successful for not just the firm, but for them too. And then, my gosh, we didn't even get into how many families we're impacting in a positive way with our clients, right? I mean, we're in the thousands when you look at that. So good stuff. Habits, mindsets. We talk about, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly cadences. What's one habit or mindset that you guys feel like you maybe carried over or learned in any of your old roles? And we didn't even get into all of it. I mean, you guys have amazing backgrounds. Obviously, just the characteristics that you guys bring to the table make you guys natural born leaders. And even if you weren't naturally born to be a leader, you've developed it over time. But through that, you develop these different habits and mindsets. Talk a little bit about what are some of those that you've brought with you that you still use today?
Yeah, I can start. So I think there's probably two things. I'm sure there's more, but I could probably, drill it down to two. One is...
Oh, I know you can. Jeremy's a very, very habit-driven guy.
Yeah.
Good habits.
Yeah, one of my favorite books is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and he's got a quote, "Discipline equals freedom." So it's not necessarily a habit. It's more of a philosophy, I guess, or a way of being. But, that mindset and always being reminded discipline equals freedom, just discipline in your actions and your thoughts. I think it sets a precedence, one, because I'm holding myself accountable to do certain things every day, get up, go exercise, eat right, treat people right, all these different things. If you're expecting certain outcomes, you need to be disciplined in how you're going about it. So I think that's a huge one that drives me right now, and that's a habit that I learned when I was working in the Air Force and transitioned, here to Feller and Wendt. And there's so many, different habits that I would say. I would say the biggest one besides that is just constantly learning and realizing that you're never going to be perfect, but you always have to try to be. So you always have to be willing to learn from your mistakes, what you're doing wrong, being accepting of other people, trying to understand, what's driving them to make mistakes. If they are making mistakes, what drives them to do well as well. But it's that constant learning and trying to evolve, if you will, in your behavior. And it's that emotional intelligence, factor that goes into it as well. Is you're really trying to understand people better. You're trying to understand yourself better, and realize where your weaknesses, where your strengths are, and trying to just adapt and bring that forward. So that's something that I've always been interested in. Not always great at applying, or I may learn something about myself that I'm not very empathetic. But in the past, when I was younger, I wouldn't do anything about it. And I think now, over the years of leading people, you kind of learn how to, change your behaviors, change your mindset, really learn how to communicate to people, how to learn from other people, and apply that to your life so you can better serve other people.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, Jeremy was our executive coach. Started with me and Matt Feller, the two CEOs. I know he's coached Adam. Colton, did you ever get a chance to get coached by Jeremy?
No, we never did.
Yeah, you're missing out on. You haven't completed your development yet. Then we'll have to remedy that somehow.
There we do.
But no, it's cool to see the caliber. I mean, Jeremy's a world-class executive coach, still doing executive coaching right now for some folks up in Idaho and maybe elsewhere too. I'm not sure, but we love having you on board, having that level of expertise. And I love that you talked about our core values, and that's part of what made you want to come join us and go on this journey with us. But having been coached by him and then now working with him and watching him, it's not just that preaching to us about what we should do, but he comes in and he does the exact same stuff. So those very habits and principles that guided him, and then through him us, he's actually implementing here at the firm. So super cool. Adam, I'm gonna jump to you, even though you're pointing at Colton, because you're our pastor, man. So I'm hoping to hear some biblical principles. And I don't know where you're gonna go, but I'm just planting that seed.
So you're making me a pastor.
Hey, pastor in training, right? Am I wrong on that? Did Tom? He was my production guy on this. He get this wrong? I'm just kidding.
No,
Tom didn't have any part of it.
Folks find out you're in seminary, and then they go, "Oh, you're going to be a pastor." Tell
us why you're in seminary.
Yeah, God put on my heart a couple years ago to, start digging into the Bible, and times are a changing, and so getting strong in the biblical word, might not always be around. So better understand it and know it, and be able to recite some stuff in there. And so, God put on my heart that I needed to get stronger in the word, and be ready to go when He calls me to do whatever it is He wants me to do. If that's go pastor or lead, then that's what I'll do. If it's to do missionary work, that's what I'll do. I'd like to think that I'm humble enough that when God puts it on my heart that He wants me to do something, that I'm gonna be obedient and do what I'm asked to do.
Nice.
So that's the background to there. I have a healthy fear of the Lord. I know enough about the Bible to know that those that enter pastoring the flock are going to be judged harsher and different. And, I take that, line from the Bible very seriously. And so, I've made changes in my life that I think you've probably seen over the last couple of years, trying to circumcise my heart and, soften me and, just be a better partner, better friend, better leader, things like that. To tap on what Jeremy said, I think probably, my habit that, I've followed the most throughout my career has been, the emotional intelligence, the self-reflection, looking at yourself in the mirror. How can I better myself? I met guys when I was an assistant public defender that were out of law school a couple years, and they knew everything because they were a lawyer. And I've never felt that way. How can I get smarter? And I've been blessed. I've had mentors. I had Jerry Spence as a mentor. I got to rub elbows with Paul Lavera. Some of this, our country's finest trial attorneys. And so, I think litigation has always been big in my heart and is, with the team. I think, I've got a talent in that, but, sometimes your partners and friends ask you to put it on the shelf because they need you to, do other things. And so, being adaptable and, willing to try and do new things, is says a lot about, a person's, ability to be part of a team. And so, constantly learning, I think, is big for me. Jeremy's a coach. I actually got certified by the Cialdini Institute 2 years ago, as you know. Right. So, in coaching, haven't used it, but
I think you use it all the time.
Well,
Just not,
I think you're right. Yeah, just not like
In a
a
formal
paid
capacity.
separate. Yeah, in a formal capacity. That's right. One of the other things, a venture that I started about 3 years ago that I finally completed last year was Joe Navarro. I don't know if you know who Joe Navarro is, the retired FBI guy. So I finished his body language academy. So I got certified in that, and there's just
Isn't he the Spy the Lie guy?
yeah, he's a spy lab. Yeah. So,
Awesome book, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what drives me. I try to spy the lie.
Well,
I'm trying to do it right now.
but it's fun, right? Like you learn things and you pick up on things that most people, don't.
Yeah.
And so, when you learn what a person's baseline is and you learn, what makes them comfortable, more importantly, what makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You go in a
Getting the tells.
deposition. Yeah, exactly. You go in and you're like, okay, I'm on a subject that this witness really doesn't want to talk about. Let's, probe a little deeper.
My kids hate this. I tell them all the time I can spy the lie.
I love it.
Because you know the tells.
Hey,
Especially, right?
Yeah. Well, so it'll be 17 years I've been married. Yeah. And let me tell you, my wife asks much better questions now than she did 17 years ago.
What do you mean by that?
Well, at first, I would get things like, hey, did you feed the kids? And I'd be like, yeah. Now that question is, did you feed the kids in the last hour? What did you feed the kids?
That's right.
How much did you feed the kids? So, she's learned to cross-examine and ask better questions. And
That's awesome. Good stuff. Colton?
Well, for me, I think one thing that I've always tried to carry with me is staying positive on things. There's always going to be struggles, challenges, right? And an analogy I always say is like the challenges can be a really good thing to make things interesting. Sometimes I look back at times in my life and it's like the challenging times that are the most interesting or engaging or rebuild from. Like nobody wants to hear about your camping trip that went perfect. If you said, how was your camping trip? And I said, the worst. You'd say, well, why?
Yeah, they're dialed in. Yep.
Yeah, so you got to pull something from that. In our profession, there's a lot of room for frustration with, dealing with opposing counsel, dealing with problems. There's a lot of room to, get tired and get weary. But for me, it's like, hey, you should come in every day with energy. You should come in and be happy. Look for the good things. And there's just too many things to be appreciative for and grateful for to not find the joy day to day.
Yeah. Good stuff. I know I'm more the moderator, but for me, it kind of reminded me when you were talking a little bit about, trying to stay, I think you were saying kind of be positive and look at some of the pressure situations. But good friend of Jeremy and I, Jason Early, he's a retired F-16 pilot, flies for Delta now. I remember him talking to me about
F-15.
F-15? Yeah. Oh, I've been telling everybody wrong. Sorry, Jason. F-15. So anyway, he told me there's a difference between pressure and stress. And ever since he's told me that, that's actually kind of like there's a whole bunch, like you said, different habits and things that drive me too. But one is I try to focus on and dissect the difference between pressure and stress. To me, pressure's good. I like pressure. I think Feller and Wentz, we've got a lot of pressure on us right now, but it's good. I look at the pressure that we put on ourselves, that we exert on ourselves to make sure we're taking care of our staff, making sure that we take care of our clients, our referral partners. And I think that's all good stuff. It's not always enjoyable, but it's good.
Remember, it's impossible to make a diamond.
That's right. I
Without
was going to say
pressure.
that. I think that pressure it makes you harder. It makes you sharper, clearer. Right. There's a lot of analogies there with the diamond with pressure. Right. And then stress, though, I think is unhealthy. And those are those things that I can't control. Right. Pressure, I think, are items, issues, topics that are within our control. Stress, what's the point in wasting thought and energy and time and people resources on stress situations? And so I think the challenge is, and where I've been trying to kind of redefine myself, is like what is truly pressure and what's truly stress. It's not always like clearly delineated, but I've tried to use that both in my leadership role and then even in my role at my house. We have, it's terrible, but we have daily huddles at my house too. Weekly huddles, I should say, every Monday. My kids hate it. It'll be one of those things I scar them with. But we talk about pressure and stress as well. So anyway, enough about me. Let's get back to you guys. I do think like one of the issues is you look at our culture, and we're not going to dive into like culture issues a whole lot, but I don't feel like a lot of the things you guys are talking about, like looking at yourself, reflecting, checking out the man in the mirror. I don't think that happens a lot. And I don't know if that's because of lack of mentorship or what, but kind of with that in the back of your mind, let's say you were going to mentor yourself. What's something that you would go back and tell your younger self? Let's talk about maybe teenage self. What advice would you give to yourself? And let's say you only have like 60 seconds to
Let me take it first.
go for
I
it.
want everybody to learn from my mistake.
Okay.
So, my father was on me. My father was great, dude. My dad led a jail ministry.
Awesome guy.
Yeah, in Cincinnati for 20 plus years. And probably starting in the early to mid 90s, he said, son, you got to take this Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey. And man, I took it about 20 years after he told me to take it. And had I listened to my father,
You might not be working here now.
I probably wouldn't be working here now, but no. No,
So
it would have
thanks for
saved.
not- Thank you
have
for not following that advice.
Listen, it would have saved me a lot of frustration, and so that'd be my wisdom nugget to folks. If you haven't done that, that's a fantastic program. Do it.
Yeah, I'd echo that. It's an amazing program. I too, I followed it. I started earlier than you did, but far too late.
Yeah.
So, the sooner you can get on track with that, the better.
It's funny, real quick, because I'm still within my 60-second time frame. My wife and I put a trust together, and that's a requirement for our kids. In order to access anything that we may leave them, is they've got to complete that course before anything goes to them.
You've told me that before, and I need to go update my will and trust and put that in there too. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. And just to be clear, you don't only have 60 seconds to answer. It's just you have 60 seconds to tell your former self. That's all you have. So
Listen to
this
your
isn't
father.
that's right. It's a Darth Vader type of conversation in 60 seconds. Colton, what about you? This is only 2 years in the past.
Yeah, the 2-year-old me. Yeah, got some investment advice mostly. I think what I would say is just encouraging that the little things you do are like a gift to yourself in the future, right? The little disciplines, whether it's saving, exercising, working on dumping bad habits, you look back and you're really thankful to your old self that you did those. And at the time, it's no fun, right? Getting up early to go to the gym is not a lot of fun. Saving that money instead of going out is not a lot of fun. But when you look back at it, it really is a gift to your future self. And I just encourage myself to continue to do those. And I look at my life now, and when I struggle with those things, I think, hey, I'm going to be thankful for this. I'm going to look back a year from now and be glad I did X, Y, or Z.
Man, you should write a book about that. I literally haven't heard it put that way. That's powerful, though. I like that.
Yeah,
You can sum it up in 2 words: delayed gratification.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, Colton,
I like getting
mean,
gifts.
yeah.
So that resonates with me.
Colton kind of stole mine. I mean, like getting back to that discipline equals freedom mentality. But, I can honestly say, I mean, obviously I wouldn't be the person I am today without the mistakes I made, in the past. And I think probably my younger self wouldn't have self-reflected enough on those mistakes, would have, well, I can say that I didn't. You just press through, and then you make another mistake, and you make another mistake, and you keep doing that. And so I would say take time to reflect and learn from the mistake you made so you don't make it again, and then teach your kids about those mistakes so that they don't make those mistakes. And I can say I have done that a little bit, and the kids still make the mistakes. But that's what kids do, and I can honestly say, I mean, that's just like my parents. They would tell you what to do, what not to do, and why not to do it, and you still go out and do the stupid things because you don't believe them sometimes. So I would say that take more time to self-reflect, determine the correct path that you want to go, learn from the mistakes sooner rather than later, so you're not making as many of them. Some of them financial, some of them physical, whatever it could be. Take time to self-reflect a little bit more, and then really figure out the nuggets of what you learned from that mistake, so you can apply it in other situations.
Nice. I think we've got a couple minutes here, kind of to wrap up. Some of the folks that listen to us are employees or clients. What's one thing you want to leave them with, or something that I guess this is the better way to do it. What's one thing you want those folks to know about you right here, right now?
So I can start. And this kind of goes into one of the things that I guess I've carried over from different positions in my past is, I firmly believe that leaders, are one of our major purposes of existing is to remove constraints that prohibit our employees from doing what they were hired to do. And so I would say that's, talking to my team, that's my goal, is to look at everything that we're doing, look at, physical spaces, look at processes, whatever it is. And, I need your help to identify the constraints that are prohibiting you from doing your job, so that I can remove them.
Nice. And he made great eye contact with the camera while he said that. I love it. Connecting with the audience. Adam.
I think accessibility is a big thing. And so, I think for clients as well as employees, it's important to know that, even as leaders, we're accessible. We're managing people now, right? And so we have teams that work for us. And so it's not always easy to have access to, a partner or a general manager, but we're available, right? Yeah. And so, if you're a client out there and, for whatever reason you're disgruntled, I mean, we do this because we genuinely like to help people. Yeah. The money comes, but it comes by doing the right thing for the right reasons. And so, if you're listening to this podcast and you feel like, oh man, I don't feel like they're taking priority in my case, pick up the phone and call the firm. All my staff knows that I'm accessible. A client can get a telephone conversation. You might not get me when you call because, I'm in the middle of doing a deposition or 5 other things, but they will put you on the calendar. You're going to talk to me. And so, that's what I would say. I would say that, for the employees as well, Colton will call me on a question, other attorneys or staff. I mean, we are available. May not be at the moment you need us, but, get on a calendar and,
Awesome.
get it scheduled and let's do it.
Good. Colton?
I guess circling back to that kind of responsibility comment earlier, I really take the responsibility of different roles seriously. If you're a client that's retained us, retained our firm, and I'm working on your case, or even if it's in someone else's case, I take that trust very seriously, and the idea that we're, you're there to help your path to justice, to help you get from the day of whatever incident you were involved in to the other side of that. And I recognize that that's our responsibility, and it's important that we're there, we're accessible to Adam's comment, that we're doing the right thing to help you get to the other side. If you're an employee working with us, I appreciate the trust you put in us. Excuse me. As a leader, if your leadership asking me to take on new roles, et cetera, I really do take those responsibilities seriously, and reach out to me if you need me.
Yeah, we definitely see that. I mean, I think for folks that are listening from me, it's simple. We're the best. And I know that sounds braggadocious, but I want you to know if you're an employee, you are with the best company to work for. We talk about, getting the right people on the bus. You're on the right bus. Now I'm excited about where the bus is going. If you're a client, however you got to us, you got to the best law firm, and we're going to take amazing care of you. So with that, let me thank Jeremy, Adam, Colton. Thanks, guys. I know this is just so you guys know, we're shooting this. We started at 6:30. These guys all have to fly out at various times today, so they got out of bed early to meet me here and get this taken care of. So I appreciate it. Again, this is our 4th now, right, Tom? We're on number 4. This is a goal. We're a goal-driven firm. We've got a goal to get to what, 21, Tom, by the end of the year. So I think when we started our goal, there was only 27 weeks, so we can't miss very many. So thanks, guys, for helping me not miss this week's. I appreciate it. I know our staff's going to love hearing this. Hopefully our clients will be tuning in and get to learn a lot about the high quality and caliber folks that are working on their cases. And thanks to you guys for sharing your past lives with us and showing that the road to leadership isn't always linear. If you're listening and you've got something from this episode, you gained something, you learned something, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with someone navigating change in their own career and their own lives. Thanks so much. This is Beyond the Bar. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.